Welcome back, everybody, to another exciting Lord Duckman production. This is the 72 Beetle that you guys have seen me replace the carburetors on, or actually clean the carburetors. We're having a lot of issues with this thing, so we're actually going to be replacing the carburetors entirely on here with a brand new set and a proper CB performance linkage that isn't as flexible as these are, because you remember that's how we ended the last video. We had nothing but issues with all this stuff, so it's time to gut it all out and replace it all. Start over from scratch, because it's all this previous owner stuff. That's what it was. Anyways, you know the drill. Likey, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to plug that dingle bell so you get updates every time I upload a video. Check out duckshit.net for all my social media links. And we'll be back, starting with the carburetors on this thing. There it is. In here is our CB Performance carburetor kit. Here's the manifolds, some extra fuel line, some vacuum line. Actually, looks like all fuel line. There's all of our mounting hardware. There's our air cleaners. Got a nice tall set on there. This box would probably be our carburetors. Let's see here. It looks like they're mostly assembled at this point. Some of the ones I've done in the past, they came in a semi-disassembled state. There's one. There we go. These are Weber 34s. They're not China ones. We paid extra to make sure we get the right ones. Oh, there it is. Weber. Okay. Not a MP clone. Look at that. Made in Spain. When you get the Webers, you want to make sure you get the ones that say they're made in Europe. There are some that are made in China, but I think those are actually just the MP ones. They're just clones. They're not actually real Webers. So these are looking pretty good. I'm going to open these up and just clean them just because. I probably don't need to. A little paranoid, I guess, when I do it, but it's something that I've always done. So I'll open them up and I'll go through the whole things and make sure they're nice and clean. I'm not going to do that on video. I don't see any reason I should have to, because you guys see me clean these carburetors in the last couple videos, so I'm kind of sick and tired of making a video about that. Let's start assembling these things. We'll start by putting our manifolds together here. Is there Teflon tape included in here? No, there's not. That's okay. I'm going to go grab a knife. So I like to slit this and just pull out pieces one by one rather than dumping out the whole array of everything and just making a mess. So, let's do that. Nice and cool out here today. Curious what's in here. Nice and cool out here today. It's been raining on again, off again through the morning. This afternoon it's cool, a little damp, but cool. These are our spacers to raise our carburetors up. The last couple kits I got, these were not included. This is interesting. This must be something new. Here's all the base gaskets that you would use. In this case, we're probably not going to raise the thing up that high, but if we do, well, we have that option. Really didn't need to open it. I wanted to see what it was. Alright, where should we start? Let's start with putting these manifolds together. We're going to screw these bungs in here. Now these manifolds is going to be, they're exact mirror images of one another. They're going to be a left and a right. You want to put the balance pipe on the back side. So you want to, I want that thread in. Those threads might be boogered. Yeah, I think those threads are boogered. Alright, I'm going to have to run a chase through there and just make sure they're nice and clean. Anyway, that one's good. Like I said, you want them on the back side so that way your balance pipe you don't see. Well, actually, technically that's the front side, but it'll go around the air shroud so you won't have to look at it. And in here we've got the plugs to cap off this side. And yeah, you should be using Teflon tape on these. These threads are really boogered. I don't know what the deal is with that. These manifolds are also different than the other ones that I did the last job. This is interesting. The other manifolds were shorter. So these are technically, I guess, the tall ones then. Somebody was asking about that, if I was using the wrong manifolds because they look kind of short, but No, these are the long ones then. The shorter ones are shorter than this, but not by much, by only about an inch or so. Boy, these threads are really monkeyed up. Yeah, I can see it. Looks like somebody dropped it on something and banged it up. It might have been during shipping. Alright, well, I'll get in there with a tap and I'll clean that up real fast. And we'll be back when we start putting this thing back together. Alright, there it is. Got my plug in, got the bung in. We got a set of intake manifolds all set up. And actually, they're going to go this way. There you go. And I did use the yellow Teflon tape, which is impervious to fuel. Don't use anything else or it'll turn into a gummy mess when the fuel hits it. And it'll just be awful. This also serves as like a Loctite, so when you tighten this in there, it doesn't want to come back out. So, very good. I trimmed it off as best I can with a razor knife on here so you don't see it either. Make it look nice. Here it is. Alright. Now we should have a set of studs that go into there too. Oh. Hold on. Let go. Oh, I don't see the studs. Oh, there they are. Come on now. Really didn't want to do that. I don't have my carburetor tray out here, which I probably should. And I'm going to regret that. You watch. I'm already all spread out. I'm not going to pick everything back up and put it back in the tray. There's our studs here. They're exceptionally long, but that's probably because they intend to use the spacers on here. And actually, they thread in quite a ways. Yeah, threads on these manifolds are just a little boogered. Just a little bit. If you don't have a tap and die set, you might actually be a little frustrated putting this together. And that one went in clean. This one here is finicky. Anyway, it looks like this is supposed to go on like that. This like this. This on here. And then the carburetor mounts up on top of that. So that's how it's going to go on the car, just like that. And you can see just how short that bolt is because it went in so far. I'll have to back that out. It looks like that's going to be a Loctiter, because otherwise I'll never get it tight properly. Interesting. I'm going to read the manual here because I've never seen these spacers before and see if they feel they require them on a Type 1 style Beetle. There might be some kind of a clearancing issue here. Yeah, it's got to be. I don't see why else they would be giving all this stuff, because this was not in any of the kits that I've installed in the past. Oh, it looks like the generic instructions that I've been seeing on these things for the last 30 years. I bet you that hasn't changed. In fact, no, they show... Oh, no, this one does show the spacer in there. Spacers are not used on Type 3 or Type 4 kits. 2 studs per manifold before bolting on the carburetor. Spacers must be put on. The spacer goes between the manifold and the carburetor. Okay, well, obviously. Alright, looks like we're putting them on Type 1. It's interesting because any of these Type 1s we've done before, including the car that's sitting out front right now, does not have them. Not on there. Now, again, that could be previous owner garbage. But what I probably should do is go up front and just verify that we're not going to have any fitment issues installing some of this stuff on there. So, maybe we will use them, maybe we won't. We just don't know. Won't know until we try it anyway, right? Alright. Hell, let's go have a look. We have a lot going on over here, so I'm going to confuse the crap out of you. Here we go. So these are the carburetors I just took off the Beetle. These are going to be disposed of. This is the manifold set that came off of that Beetle. These are the new manifolds. Right away when you look at them, you can tell that there's a difference. The new ones are offset in such a way that the old ones are not. These are centered. They are actually identical either way. They are completely symmetrical. These are symmetrical that way, but when you turn them like they're going to be put on, obviously they lean a different way. So I would not be able to use these manifolds with the new setup. And I wondered if it would matter for the linkages and everything, but yeah, how the linkages are going to align the way that the little mounts are in here where the hex bar comes out, how they're offset. So you notice But actually, they're not even offset on this set. That's interesting. They're straight. Huh. Hope that fits okay. Usually they're offset. We may have an issue. I guess we'll see. Anyway, I also noticed that the old manifolds were shorter. I thought these were the tall ones. I was totally incorrect. They are the short ones. And then if I put this spacer on here, which doesn't even fit, the bolt spacing isn't right. But if I put this spacer on here, then we have the same height. So that's kind of interesting, even though this spacer is meant to go on here, which makes it way taller. The manual will say to use it, so we're going to use it. I also noticed that the bolt spacing is not the same. The old manifolds have much closer bolts, but the holes in the carburetors are ovaled out. So it'll take the narrow or the wide. So it'll fit either one. Now the last thing, just to throw in here, the wild card, here's one of the Delorto 34s that I've been working on. I have to put the gaskets in this and put this back on the fastback out front, or square back I should say. But the bolt holes do not line up with that manifold, so these manifolds, they're not intended to go on there. And the wider set that's on here still isn't quite wide enough. Close. I could probably get in there and gently wallow out the hole with a milling bit. But yeah, they're too narrow. So anyway, there is a bit of a difference. These air cleaners also, they will fit on top of the Delorto carburetors, but I found that I had to mill a couple millimeters out of the inside of these. And I was able to chuck it when I put them on the fastback and mill out the inside of it, made them work. So that was quite a surprise to me, that there is that much of a difference. But yeah, the tops are a different size, but only ever so slightly, just enough that it didn't fit. In addition to that, the bolt patterns on the top of these carburetors are different. And how these usually work, well, this one only has one bolt. Sometimes they have three, and you'll have to re-drill the holes to make them work on a Delorto. What are you doing there, Pecan? He's running around like a little nut. His mother's chasing him for some reason. I don't know why she's after him today. Let's get all this stuff out of the way that we're not using, so we don't have any more confusion. We're going to be using the new manifolds because we have to. So we'll get these studs wound in there. Here's our spacers. Just trying to get this all out of the way so that we know what we got cooking here when it comes time. I'm going to Loctite these and I'm going to let them sit overnight, and we'll install these carburetors in the morning tomorrow. Meanwhile, we'll continue assembling this stuff. This is one of the 11mm nuts that we got off the old setup. And remember, we had to replace them because everything was installed with 13s and we couldn't assemble the car with wrenches and such because they don't freaking fit. 11s, though, they do fit in there. Some people were saying, oh, Duckman, you're struggling, it's so hard, you should use different tools. You're right. What I need is an 11mm wrench about that big. And I went shopping this week, and I couldn't find one anywhere. I found some that were considerably shorter, but I need one about half the length. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to take one, and I'm going to cut it. And I'm going to weld it back together so I have this little stubby 11mm wrench. Will be perfect for this job. That's all you need. A crow's foot is not going to work. A wobble socket is not going to work. A swivel socket is not going to work. I said this in the video when I installed the things the last time, and people still continue to tell me that's the way you have to do it, and it doesn't work. Trust me, I've been down this road before, and it's always the people that have never done this that are always trying to tell me how to do it. Anyway, I digress. Off topic. But the nuts that came with the kit are 12mm, which are better than the 13s, but still you're going to have some clearancing issues, so get the 11s. Links down below in the video description. Let me put that in a safe spot so we don't lose it. These 12ers that are in here are going to stay in this kit. These are all the air cleaner mounting hardware stuff. This stuff we're not going to need until last. So I'm also going to stick this where the sun don't shine. I'm going to put it right down in my parts can here. And we can come back to that later so it doesn't get lost. Alright, here's our carburetors. These air cleaners need to mount up on top of these. Pecan, what are you doing? He's jumping on top of things. He's trying to get away from his auntie. His auntie is chasing him now. He's the new Roo of the yard. Everybody picks on him. Everybody picks on him. Even the birds that were getting picked on before are picking on him. That's how bad it is. Okay, here's our air cleaner. Get that out of this plastic. Gotta make sure this plastic goes nowhere near my animals because they try to eat this stuff. Boy, that plane is loud. Probably a helicopter. Why is he flying in reverse direction so low to the ground? have just about pegged him with a golf ball. That would have been fun. The FAA would have been all over me, too. That guy was really low. I wonder if that was even legal. I mean, he was that low. Anyway, there's our air cleaners and air cleaner lids. This we're going to need for later. These need to be fitted up here. We need to see where our... That would make this one our left side carburetor. This one will be our right side carburetor. Okay, we need to put a piece of hardware in there. There's a screw that's supposed to go in there. And then, it looks like one of our mounting bolts, which is going to be this one, requires on here this one. These need to come out. Let's try not to stab my finger this week. Come on now. Still got to go through and clean these carburetors out, but anyway, we're getting things pre-mounted and ready to go, so when it comes time after the clean out, which I'll do tonight while it's dark and you guys wouldn't be able to see it anyway because the cameras will be unable to pick up video from the light being so dim. Okay, let's see. We should have a set of standoffs. Oh, there they are. These. Bitty's screaming. That's his job, to scream. Put these right here. Come back to those. This is going to be our standoff. This goes on here like this. This goes down the back, and this does two things. One, it braces the carburetor from swiveling, and it also keeps it on so it doesn't slip off. It's like I need to get an Allen key for that. That's different. And there it is. See? Runs through there just like that, and that gets tightened down. So this one should be the same on this side. Kits have changed a little bit since the last time I put a fresh one in. At least on a Type 1 anyway. The Type 3 stuff had remained the same. Yeah, it's changed just a little bit. Alright, that's how that's going to work. I'm going to get an Allen key for that, and I'm going to snug that up real fast. I'm just going to have a working assembly. That way we know what we're doing for tomorrow. I want everything to be on here. And, yeah, okay. Just rolled off the damn tape here. Yeah, I should have put my tray out. It was really foolish not to. This is going to go on here like this. There's also going to be a nut that goes in there too. So let's get the nuts out. This is a tedious little operation. There's a lot of small moving hardware. Well, not all moving hardware. We'll get to the moving hardware in just a minute. But all this stuff does need to be wound in. At least these threads are good. I'm not going to tighten them up because there needs to be some adjustment in it. Alright, get my key here. Oh, look at that. I found a valve cover bail. I wonder why that was around here. Weird. Chickens must have dug it up from somewhere. Oh, Duckman. You're going to strip out the bolt with that impact. Oh, no. They're so stripped. Oh, God. Duckman, I'm unsubscribing because you keep using that impact. Oh. Oh. There we go. That's how it's going to be assembled. They'll go just like that, and the long hex bar will go in between the two. And of course the air cleaners will go on top just like that. These are so nice. And these air cleaners are pretty easy to get. They're pretty standard size. They're not measured by length and width. They're actually measured as if they're round. Just like that. You measure the height, and you measure it across when it's round. Now for those of you that have a set like this and wondered, that's how it works if you need to get a set of air cleaners for them. And that's how it goes together, just like that. Alright, good. Now we need to worry about our linkage too on here. Let's see. This is going to have one of these. And of them. And some of these nuts and bolts right here. As well as some of these Heim joints. They're like a Heim joint. I don't know if they're actually a Heim joint, but this blister pack stuff is great for keeping things organized, but it's a real pain in the ass to get things out of. Which I guess is good, because then, you know, nothing gets lost. Not until you open the package and send shit flying because it made you angry. Alright, there's those. And there should be two. Uh-oh. Did they pack them both? Yep, they're in there. Alright. These guys are turnbuckles. So they only thread one way. I got it right on the first try. They only thread on one way. There's a nut that goes on each end. This one is the reverse threaded end, so good luck getting it, you know, right on the first try. I got it right on the first try again. I don't believe it. And that one's a lefty-tighty. Let's see if this one's right. I got that one right on the first try. I don't believe it. I'm on a roll here. Alright, gonna get it again? Let's see. Come on, one more time. Get it, get it, get it, get it. Righty-tighty? Nope, I think that one's a fail. Yep, that one's a righty-tighty. Now this is a turnbuckle. For those of you that don't know what a turnbuckle joint is, it's a joint that you can, you turn in the middle, and it causes the ends of it to go in and out. Because one end is reverse threaded, so when you loosen in one direction, it loosens both ends, therefore lengthening this joint. So that's how that works. There'll be one on each side. Lefty-tighty. I might have had it right the first time here. I did. That's what I get for doubting myself. I should have brought my little carburetor tray out here. There's so many little parts that are so easy to lose. There's the two carburetor. There's the two springs that I always find in the engine compartments of dual carbureted engines. I guess people take them apart and they lose these things. It's supposed to go in the end of the hex linkage, right here, and then you slide this over it, and it causes the causes the shaft to be balanced in the middle, so that way it doesn't want to bang back and forth. But anyway, we'll put those in there, because we're going to come back to that. Here's our arms. We're going to get one of each on these here like this. We've got these little rubber plugs here. This is what goes on the vacuum ports. One of these is going to go to our 034 distributor. So we're going to take one of them off later on, but for now they're going on here, so I know where they are. Okay, let's see. Now we got to put this on. These guys. This, I believe, is a 13 millimeter. I don't think I brought a 13 out with me. No, I didn't. Boy, it's all loose too. It wasn't even tight from the factory. How about that? Anyway, we have to put on these longer extensions on here. Anyway, I said 13. It's not even a 13. It's a 12. We'll take this off of here. This is what was stripped out on the right-hand carburetor on the old setup. That was when I really knew I had a problem, when I went to tighten everything down and I couldn't. Alright. Gotta remember which position this is supposed to be in. Yeah, it's gonna go in this position. It's good to look at that stuff and just verify. That's how this stuff operates mechanically. It could be a little confusing at times. Well, there's my lock washer. It was underneath this little arm. I'll show you my reasoning here in a moment as to why we just put it on the way I did. Okay, the hex bar linkage is going to be pushing on these rods, right? So it has to push down on the carburetor. If this is in any other position, it'll push down and try to close the carburetor, so that's backwards. And of course, if you put the arm way down here, you can't push it down, then it wants to be pushed that way. Clearly, that's not going to work either. So anyway, that's all there was to it. Now we'll tighten this up. We don't need to crank it down to the point that we strip it out like the previous owner did. Okay, and then on here is this little lock washer. It has a tab on it. You just bend that tab right over against that nut. Locked. Good. Next, this goes on here. One of these on each arm. Let's see, is there a short or a long end? Because it looks like a short one would work just fine on here. Oh, you know what? No, hang on. That's wrong. Here's why it's wrong. Because we got to use these extensions. Almost forgot. Almost forgot. These extensions are both the same length too. That's kind of interesting. Typically these extensions would be one long, one short. Looks like we might be having a little clearance issue over here. Yeah, maybe. Gonna have to look more closely at that. Then this should thread right in the end here. Yeah, these CB Performance kits are excellent. The only thing that really frustrates me on them is that all the tools are mismatched. It'd be nice if somebody went through all the hardware and, you know, made things like the same sizes. So you come out here with just a couple tools and put it together. Instead, you need like a lot of tools to put the stuff together. Is that my 10? I think that's a 10. No, it's not. That's an 8. Do I have my 8 in here? I'm pretty sure I do. Somebody was bitching at me in my other video. Said, your video is really quiet. And I had another guy telling me that I was making too much noise. You know, that my ratchet, or the toolbox rather, as I'm rustling things around, was too noisy. It's amazing how people would say completely opposites of one another when they critique. Completely opposites. But you know how it goes. Everybody's an expert. The whole internet is a bunch of experts. And if I tell these people to actually do this work and put them down in front of me, all these experts are going to do all the wrong things the first time around. All the stuff they're telling me to do that I keep telling them is wrong. They're going to try it. Oh, they're going to try it. This is another 11. Where's my 10? I know it's in here. I always grab a 10 because you never know if you're going to need it. Because you always need it. So, here we go. That's a 10. Good. And there's our tenner. Yeah, it looks like I'm going to need a second one, actually. So I got to tighten this from both ends. Alright, let me go grab another 10 micrometer. 1 10 on here, another 10 on there. Tighten. Yes, it's awkward. You have two things trying to move at the same time. There it is. Snug-a-bobbled. That had a nice nylon lock nut on it too, so that ain't going anywhere. Here we go. See that? Very nice. We'll do the same thing on this one. It'd be nice if these carburetors are mirror images of each other. And I do know they make some of the duals that way. Alright, see? Wrong position, like I said. You can't push it down if that's the case. You can push it this way. You can't push it down, so it needs to be up like that. And that way it goes down. If I flip it over this way, So again, you can't push it down because it's closing the carburetor. And if you put it down like that, again, you can't push it down. Doesn't make any sense. So there's only one way this goes on. Only one right way, and that's the way, just like that. Our locking washer on here. Come on, don't cross thread. Don't cross thread. There it goes. Oh, who's fighting? Your great-grandma was picking on you this time? Unbelievable. That little rooster boy of mine, he's, he really is the victim. Alright, a little tighter. Here we go. We got a nice flat spot that's leaning towards that lock washer tab. And then we'll bend it into position, just like that. Locked. Good. Okay. And we gotta get out. Ew. Saw Duckman lose his balance. Duckman's not even drunk. Hearing a lot of activity next door. I wonder what's going on over here. Okay. Now when I do these, I like to put the same threaded side on the same side. So in this case, the regular thread is on the top. Let's see. Yep, that's the one. Doesn't really matter which way you do it. I just like to have them consistent, so the same on both sides. So in the event you have to service something, or you're making your calibration adjustments, you don't have to keep reversing your turns on the... Yeah, it's really obnoxious. It makes a whole lot more sense this way. Good. 110. And where's my other 10? It is. Duckman, you always drop the wrenches. It's really unprofessional. Duckman has nerve damage in his hands. It's a good excuse anyway. I did a couple years ago, well actually back when I first got Eleanor, I was running the grinding tool so much I actually did have a little nerve damage, but I think I've recovered from it. I don't think I have any problems still. But it was like a constant vibration feeling in my hands for like 6 months. But it went away, and I never lost any sensation after that. Nothing that isn't caused by this thick glove of callus that I have on my hands anyway. Alright, now this arm is going to go on the end like that, and then it'll go up to the hex bar. It's going to be the same on the other side. I'm not going to mess with those yet. We're going to do those last because that's when the carburetor goes on. We do have our linkages in place. We have some extra hose clamps in here. That's nice. We got a set of manifold gaskets. That's good. We'll take the ones off that are on there, even though we probably don't have to. I think we're going to anyway. I just saw something in here which I'm glad that I noticed. Don't lose those either. The cable holdfast here. This is what goes on the end of the throttle cable that locks it into the doodad here. This goes through there just like that. The existing one on this car, somebody stripped off, well actually broke the head off the bolt, so it's fucked up. So anyway, I have to fix that. So I might have to drill the existing one out to get the old linkage off, unless I just cut the old linkage with a Sawzall. But I'm going to try not to damage anything, because a lot of that linkage stuff, even though I don't like that setup, there's a lot of good spare parts there for somebody else that may come along that might need some help. So we're going to try to hang on to as much of that as possible. I'm going to put that in there so we don't lose it. We got our fuel splitter down there so we don't lose it. We got a whole bunch of hose clamps here that we may or may not need. This car has a whole bunch of fuel line on it already that's already routed and it looks good. And there's our hex bar. That's what goes up in the middle. And the last thing is, these little buttons here that thread in, you don't want to lose these. So I'm going to wind these in there now before they do get lost. There we go. Don't lose these. You will be a very, very sad person if you do. And then I will make fun of you. I'm going to put this on here temporarily. This bar is heavier than they usually are. I think usually they're aluminum or something. This is steel. This is like hard, solid stuff. This is not going to flex, which I have done. I've leaned on them by accident when you're in the engine compartment, not thinking, you just put your hand on it, and the aluminum one, it'll flex like crazy. This is a heavy piece. This is not how they normally come. This is must be what they've upgraded to over the years here. No, I'm not opposed to that. Come on, get on there. Why is that not going on? Here. I don't know. Come back to that then. I just want to stick these on here for safekeeping because, like I said, we're not doing this carburetor install until tomorrow. Oh, I see what's going on. When they threaded the holes, you can see there's a burr on the inside there, so I got to get in there with a file and clean that out. I don't even know if you can see it. Right there in the bottom. Or top. There's one on both sides, actually. I'll clean that up. And then we'll stick them on this bar so that way we don't lose anything. One of the 12mm nuts that we're not using. Get that out the way. Here is the lock nuts that go on the end of these arms. We're going to stick these on here. Get them good and tight so they don't fall off. I know where they are. Alright. I guess that's going to be it for today. I'm going to Loctite these studs in here so that way they're the right length. I'll take some measurements here with the carburetors on it. Make sure we have enough meat that we can still get the nuts on there at the appropriate length. And the next thing I'm going to do is also I'm going to clean out the inside of this carburetor. I'm going to check all the jetting in it too to make sure it matches the jetting in the other carburetor. Now the old carburetors that are here, when they were attached properly and I had them in balance when the car got first dropped off last summer, it ran fine. I mean, it ran quite well. So I want to match whatever setup that we have on there and move it over into these. In addition to that, our fuel mixture was about 4.5 turns. So we'll set those also. Same way. It looks like that was about 2.5. So we'll wind that out to 4.5. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4.5. Which doesn't matter anyway because I'm about to take it all apart and make sure it's clean. So anyway, I guess that's it until tomorrow. You guys keep watching this video. We'll finish it up and get this thing installed. And hopefully it'll all be done and the owner can pick the car up later on this week. Yes. Chickens are eating what's left over of a shrimp boil. I ate all the shrimp. They got what was left of the potatoes and some of the corn. And even the lemons. They're eating the lemons. I've never heard of anybody putting lemons in the shrimp boil anyway, but yeah, they're actually eating the lemons out of there. And they are picking the corn cob clean, which I've never seen them do. I didn't even know that they'd be able to figure that out, but they sure did. What you doing, Cheeky? What you doing, Cheeky? Yeah, they really like that corn. They pecked the crap out of the potatoes, but didn't really eat them. But the corn has been picked clean. They did a good job on those cobs. They're even, like I said, digging into the lemons. I didn't think they'd eat that. And she's in the potato right now. If I smash that potato, I guarantee you they'll eat it. Sometimes they're just a little lazy. Ducks, you guys are locked up. You guys can come out. Come on, you can come out. I just locked you up so nobody else will steal your food. You can come out. Come on. You guys are dirty. Look how dirty you are. Hey, what are you doing, Pecan, huh? The solar eclipse, baby. Oh, being chased by his auntie. Everybody picks on him. She's the baby of the family until he came along anyway. She was the littlest one, a little girl, kind of timid, very friendly, and here she is attacking her nephew. Why would you do that? Why would you do that, huh? He's sweet, and you're sweet. Silly bird. Alright, well let me do those carburetors up and we'll see you guys in the morning. Right, Cheeky? Alright, we got them all Loctited in real nice. You can see the red on there. So we'll let that dry overnight. I got this one here done also. Of course, I put all the manifold gaskets and stuff on there. And yeah, that one's done too. See the red on it. I'll let that sit overnight, harden up, and it should be able to tighten those nuts on there without the whole stud spinning. In fact, you know what? It's already firmed up. Damn, that was quick. Man, that was about a minute ago I did that. Okay. That one's still drying, but okay, well, we're good. Wow. Impressive. Okay. Let's go clean the carburetors, and we'll see you guys in the morning tomorrow. Yes. Looks like Boomer's getting some. He's doing it right there on that tent that I still need to roll up. Go ahead, Boomer, get her. Oh, there it is. Oh, man. And they just ran out of the yard. Alright, well, I gotta go get them. Welcome back, everybody. It's morning. Well, technically, it's actually early afternoon. But we're back to put these carburetors onto that Beetle. Now, one of them isn't here because I already started to put it on the car last night. I wanted to do a dry run and make sure everything fit properly, that I wasn't going to have any issues. And I left the gate open, and I just saw them come running back in. Cheeky ran Boomer in. Good girl. You brought him home. Yeah, you brought him home, that little shithead. I hope anybody else didn't escape. Anyway, I got the other one already put on. I'm glad that I started test fitting things because I discovered the holes in the intake manifolds where the bolts go through were way too small, so I had to ream them out. That made them fit. I can't believe they were actually that small. A lot of these intake manifolds I've been getting lately, they've just been really lousy shape. Some of the castings are just really poor. Sometimes they're way too thick, and you can't even get a bolt onto it, so you have to find yourself, milling them down, or you just put them on a belt sander and getting them flat. It also helps because some of these flat surfaces, you see that one's shiny, aren't flat at all. They're really rough from just an awful casting. Anyway, I've got the manifolds on there. I was going to take them back off for the video, but I don't feel like taking it back apart. It's the honest answer. Let's just get this thing running. I've spent enough time on this car. Let's get it done. So this one has to go back on there. So let me show you what's going on up front. We're still having an issue with the throttle linkage. The old one that's still on the car. Okay, well, here we are. This is that linkage I was telling you about. The little holdfast on the cable here, the bolt's broken off of it, so I'm going to have to drill that out. I'm guessing that's the only way to do it. I don't want to cut that cable. So you have to replace the cable too, so we're going to try to save that cable. I want to get this arm off. I also don't want to ruin it because, again, it's good spare parts for whatever it's worth for whatever project. There's the one carburetor that is currently mounted. I don't have the air cleaner on there yet. Check out how close of a fit this is too. Now it's actually leaning right against the side of the body, but that's the clicking sound as it hitting the body over here. That is a snug fit. Really, really tight. No, you can't pivot this or turn it. Where it sits is where it sits. It is nice, though. This is a different casting than the ones I've seen before. This has a short velocity stack on it, so that's actually really nice. But yeah, just the way everything fits on here, these taller manifolds, man, things are really, really close. And it hits that body over here. Hopefully this one won't be a clearancing issue. Now remember, these manifolds not only are taller, but we're also using these little spacers that are on here, which I believe should have been some kind of plastic, because it would have been nice to insulate the carburetor from the hot intake manifold, because when you turn this car off, those manifolds do get very, very hot, and heat does rise because it's unable to be sucked down from the fan. So what happens is these carburetors may boil over. That's a problem I have on the fastback. But anyway, let's get this thing moving. Let's try to get something done today. So we'll get that carburetor mounted, replace this linkage, and we should be able to get this thing started in the short term, coming up very soon. And Cheeky, you know you don't belong out here. It's nice of you to join me, but you can't. I gotta close that gate. You think I haven't learned a lesson already, having lost Crash a year ago? Man, it's one of the worst experiences of my life. I can only blame myself for that one. You stay in the yard, Cheeky. Okay? Good girl. What a wonderful surprise. Look who showed up. A wandering minstrel.
And I'm wearing my coveralls.
Yeah, different for a change.
Yeah.
Look like you're going out somewhere.
Well, I am. I had a doctor's appointment. I got a colonoscopy coming up in June.
Oh.
Yeah.
You don't do those for the coveralls?
I could put them on backwards, I guess. Put them on backwards. So I have made in China here.
What do you got there?
Well, it's something that...
Just something we talked about, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Look.
Yeah, look at this.
if I can get it open. You see, you gotta be Chinese.
Oh,
it is a.
It's an on-off.
Yep.
You see the battery terminals on it. It's actually a battery cutoff that you can operate via remote control. It comes with 2 remotes, huh?
Yes.
Winner.
That way, if you lose one, you're not losing.
Something like a Volkswagen where you have a rat's nest of wires underneath your dashboard. If you're interested in disconnecting your wiring completely, which I do, I reach under Ruby's back seat and rip the wire off every time I park the car. This gives you the ability to just use your keychain and shut the whole car off. One click.
Yeah, I wonder if it makes a noise like that'd be cool.
I hope it makes some kind of noise. Actually, it would be nice. I mean, relay in there or whatever contactor it has probably does. But
knowing you'd probably rig up something that would.
Well, that's why I want to look at this because
I'd like to see.
I'd like to see what this can do to be integrated into the system that I've built. So that way I can, disable the entire car except for a small, monitoring circuit. So that way the car doesn't burn itself to the ground. Because Volkswagen wiring is a little less than safe. Functional, but less than safe.
It's pretty neat.
So we gotta see how that thing works. Yeah, it's pretty clever. I mean, as soon as I sent it to you, you bought it right away. Yeah. I was like, hey, check this out. It doesn't weigh anything either. Yeah. The terminals is the heavier part. Interesting. Is that the right size for a Volkswagen? It looks a little small.
I don't know.
I guess you're about to find out. Well, you can unbolt it if you need to and replace it, so that's not a big deal. And this red wire here is probably your ground.
Yeah. No, actually, it's hot.
Hot?
Yeah.
Oh, it switches the ground.
Yeah.
Switches the ground side. Okay, I thought it was switch the hot side.
Yeah, your ground, that fits on the battery, that one there.
Okay, I see there's an on-off button here, too, in case you don't have your remote.
Right. So the negative pole is usually larger than the positive pole, so, or is it the other way around? Speaking of batteries,
that don't sound good at all.
No.
He was ringing the doorbell earlier about that, seeing if I had jumper cables, but I didn't have them available at the time. Yeah. Anyway, I was hoping that there would be a little input switch, so that way I could flip a little switch externally and I could, put it up underneath the dashboard or something to turn this on and off, but apparently it doesn't work that way. I guess maybe that kind of defeats the purpose of the whole thing too, because then you're putting power through the car where you don't really need it.
The only thing manual about this thing is the manual you get. That's it.
But anyway, I might pop the cover off of it and look inside. I'm a little curious as to just how it functions. I'm sure there's nothing to it. Probably nothing at all.
Little dust cover things on the bottom side of it.
Probably has a little SCR transistor in there and a relay. That's probably all it is. And then whatever the receiving module is for that.
Yeah.
Well, cool. We're definitely going to look into that one. I'm sure my viewers will be interested in it too. So we'll make a little Eleanor update video and we'll discuss this thing. It'll be kind of neat.
All right. Now I need a fuel pump.
Oh, fuel pump. Yeah. Come to my house for a fuel pump. Look at this guy. This guy over here. Duckman Supply Company. Fuel pump. This is what he's looking for here. Fuel pump. Fuel pump. Fuel pump.
Ooh, it looks new.
Yeah, it is.
Cool.
Arrows show your flow. Does an arrow then on the back side is positive, negative. This is plastic. Do not flex it. I broke one off and I was very disappointed because they're not cheap.
What, the plastic piece or the?
Yeah, I bent that and it broke right off.
Oh shit!
It's like a hardened plastic, just so you know. So don't flex it at all.
All right.
No, bad news.
I'll put a hose on it. And flex the hose. That'll be it. Look at this.
And I had the clamp. I had the clamp that goes around it too, but they're trash. They're too big.
Okay.
So usually I end up throwing them away and just use something else.
All right.
I mean, zip ties will even do the job for you.
The brand spanking new one will be here Thursday.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I don't need it anytime soon. It's actually for Eleanor.
Yeah.
And I was borrowing it to not put on this car, but the blue and white one that was here previously. He still smelled the gas in it.
I'm smoking it. So
a few weeks ago, I set him up because I had his carburetor on the car, and I used an external fuel supply.
Yeah.
That's how we had that thing up and running.
Well, I think... hope I ain't got no fuel in it. I'll find out.
Yeah, you might actually get a little wet spot. Look like you piss yourself.
No.
Oh, crunchy. This needs to leave here. The guy needs to come pick that up.
Yeah.
All right, we'll talk to him later.
He bought it. He better pick it up.
Yeah, he better return it. He wants his money back. Well, anyway, we're working on the carburetors on this thing. You know about that. I got one of them all mounted up. Just telling my audience here. Now what I need to do is I need to remove the holdfast on the cable here, but some ding-dong broke the bolt off, which I keep seeing on more and more cars lately. The bolt is it's gone. So the last one I was able to snap vice grips on and unscrew it. This one, you can't. It's broken off in deeper. So I got my driblets out here. I'm getting ready to attack it with the drill, and then I'll rip that arm out of there, put the other carburetor on, and then hopefully we'll be done with it. Just sync it up after that. So
that
that's
thing
the plan.
bumps up on you. I've got about 4 or 5 of these things laying over around.
This is aluminum.
Yeah.
The new one is steel. These are like
bended.
Yeah, right. And that's what I've noticed is the one that's on Ruby. I lean on it once in a while by accident, and I bend it. So the new one is steel, and boy, is it heavy and strong.
It's still pot metal here, though.
Yeah, these are pot metal. Actually, I think that's aluminum.
Yeah.
Because I put a pot metal weld on one of them, and it didn't melt it. It just melted the pot metal. So
Seen a lot of these things.
yeah, it's close. It's real close.
Yeah. I mean, I've
actually
seen
hit the
guys
body.
having to notch these out so they'll fit in that part. Yeah.
If it were dual Webers, you'd have a problem probably, because they'd be even taller than that.
Holy shit, that's
Yeah, it's actually touching the body. I mean, you could hear it.
oh, well.
And there's a spacer on there that moved it up that high. If you went beneath that, it looks like that actually might be an even bigger problem. So that spacer is definitely required. And as I was just telling the audience too, I'm surprised they made them out of metal. A plastic spacer would have made more sense, because then it would have been thermally insulated.
Yeah.
Nope,
well,
that's the way they set them up.
Maybe it's titanium and it doesn't.
But the other manifolds that were on there are almost 1.5 inches shorter, without the spacer, 1.5 inches down. And the carburetors were so much lower. And the air cleaner was just a round cylindrical thing that came straight up. So it wasn't an issue so much like these. But these not only look better, but everything's going to work better when it's done.
Vacuum ports on these things, these carburetors.
It's got 'em.
Does it?
Yep.
Does it have one?
In
that
fact,
would
I forgot
accommodate
to... I forgot to take the boot off on that side so I can get the hose on it when I installed it.
Does it
Oops.
Does it have a setup where you could run like on a bus that has the vacuum or booster, brake booster on it?
That you wouldn't put on the carburetor, you'd put that on the manifold itself. Okay. So you would put it right in here or on your balance pipe, put a T in it.
Yeah. That's what I think I'm going to have to do to Adams over there. But he still doesn't.
Put it right on the balance tube.
Remember, we were looking at those carburetors. There's still not a port in that thing that you can drill tap.
I think those are Cadrons, and I don't think they have a vacuum port. Which I tell everybody, if you don't have a vacuum port in your carburetor and you can't use an SVDA distributor, replace your shitty carburetors. Because this is the distributor you're supposed to have. Yeah. Especially if you're running a 1600 dual port, even a 1500. And that will even work on an earlier Volkswagen that wasn't intended for it. It'll perform better.
In the long run, the performance will be better, which means the fuel economy will be better, and it'll pay for itself.
And it means your engine runs cooler because you're not ramming the throttle as much. So the longevity of everything is just better.
Could save you, $3,500.
It's recommended. I mean, just the difference in driving when you take off from that stop sign, that it doesn't before it finally goes. It's just, it doesn't do that.
Are these knockoffs here? What are these called?
These are Spanish Webers.
Oh.
With the real labels on them.
Right.
The real deal. Yeah, CB Performance doesn't mess around. They sell you the real deal. If you order them from like Amazon or something, it might tell you MP, which usually means China.
MT.
And they're not even Webers. They're cloned of Webers. So Webers are typically Spanish, or as I've read, and we have a set in the back, they're Italian also.
Cool.
So I have a set of Italian Webers in the back, which really I didn't see any difference in quality. But the problem was they were just abused. So there were strip bolts and things in, and it just became an issue. So that's why the owner decided to just replace everything. Even though I had it all together and it was working, it still needed like fixes, and he just said, nope. Start over.
That's actually going to look really cool.
Oh, it's going to look great.
Color combination is just fantastic.
It's going to look great. It's a shame these won't stay so shiny and so clean. Those manifolds and carburetors are going to turn white right away, especially with the lid standoffs, because they drive it in the weather. So
oxidize. Put a little WD-40 on them every once in a while. It makes them shine.
Yeah, I suppose it might help. You can always clear coat them or something too. But with fuel in them, clear won't last very long. Well, that's that.
Looking good, Duck Man.
All right. Well, thank you. Hopefully, we have this thing running in the next couple hours.
Cool.
Hopefully, I have it tuned in the next couple hours and be ready to drive for Taco Tuesday, which you're not attending.
No. Unfortunately, I'll be working on. I'll point that away. I'm not working on Rusty. I'll be pointing on another vehicle over at my place, though.
Today?
Yep.
Tonight? No, tonight you got Fat Tuesday or something, don't you? No? We do have Taco Tuesday then?
Well, no. Because I told this guy this thing's going to be out of here like tomorrow.
Well, that'll be running in an hour once you plug that in.
What's that?
That.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, let's put that in. Oh, that's supposed to stay with me, though.
Yeah.
It feels heavier in the package. Interesting.
But, the running the positive line up to a spade on the fuse box.
That takes 2 minutes.
Got to figure out which one you want to do it with. It's got
That's
to be
easy.
whenever you turn the switch on.
Pick a fuse.
Yeah.
Just make sure you pick a fuse. That's the only critical thing.
Yeah,
And then make sure you're on the right side of the fuse.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's going to happen. Look at this.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
It does not leak, though. I assure you of that.
Wow.
Yeah, it does not leak, even though it's doing that.
Scared me there
It's
for a
moving
minute.
that easy?
Yeah.
Incredible. That wouldn't hurt to replace it if you don't want it. I'll give you a set of hose clamps if you want to.
Yeah. Let's do that. I don't trust these
Yeah,
things.
I'll give you a pair of them.
All
All right. I'll go grab them for you, and then we're going to tell you goodbye. Well, I should have got that on video for you, and I'm a little sorry I did not. But this is now effectively removed. It took a Sawzall to do it. I ended up cutting into here, downwards, into the little hole fast, and notched it. Once it was notched, it's still a little hot even, then the cable pulled out of it, but I could not for the life of me get that bolt drilled out of it. It must have been a hardened bolt that was in there. It just, you can see it's got a little V cut into it, but no, it's just, anyway. Fuck that thing. It's out. Now we're ready to put the other carburetor in and we can start putting that linkage in. And no, I didn't damage the cable in the process. I mean, I might have chafed it a little bit, but it's okay. It'll still snug up with the new holdfast. Okay, well there we are. I can see, just getting a good look at things right now, that the little standoff under there was necessary to get this hex bar to clear the generator adequately. All right, let's start putting that carburetor on. Here we go. All right, here we go. Noisy neighborhood. Everybody's driving down the street just as I hit the record button. Sorry, guys. Wow, that's a noisy school bus. School bus is blowing up. Oh, he had something in his brakes. Anyway, there's our intake manifold already installed. There is the carburetor on its seat. And then we have another set of bolts over here. Nuts, I should say. I always say nuts and bolts irreplaceably, as if they're the same thing, and truly they're not, but they are all fasteners, so maybe I'll just use the word fastener from now on. Would that make you guys happy when I say it wrong? Okay. Put this down in here, because I might drop that nut when I reach over. Just reverse hand it in. Can't believe I'm putting this in video 2 weeks in a row here. This one won't thread on. Why? Try again. Oh, there it goes. Doesn't go on straight. Okay. Now, as I noticed on the other side, there was a lot more room to turn these bolts with these manifolds on here the way they are. I didn't have to use 3 different wrenches to turn it just a little bit at a time, which a few people called it a struggle in the last video. It wasn't a f***ing struggle, it was a puzzle is what it was. It wasn't struggling at all. Struggle is something you do when you're drowning. I'm not drowning, I'm succeeding. It's not the same as a struggle. Anyway, we'll snug it up a little bit more, and then we'll come around to the other side. This one's going to be a little harder to get to. In fact, I'm going to use a shorter wrench. And what I meant to do was take one of my wrenches and cut it in the middle and shorten it down so it was about this little. But I didn't have time to do that before I started recording this video, but I assure you by the time I do another set of carburetors like these, I'll have a wrench made. I tried to buy one, but everywhere I tried to look in town that had one, or should have one, didn't have one quite short enough. Like, well, here's our stubby, and it's just a little bit shorter than my standard wrench. And I'm like, hey, it ain't helping nothing. Like, well, it's shorter than a regular wrench, and I guess they consider this one to be regular. And this one is like, short, and then the stubby is just a little bit short. No, it wasn't going to work for me. So anyway, we're going to make a much shorter one for the next go around here. This one bolt is the one that's hard to get to. And I'll repeat myself, I said it earlier in this video. Guess what? A swivel or a rocking socket or any other kind of socket is not going to fit on here. This one I could probably attack with a crow's foot, but I couldn't do that on the other side. There's just not enough room. In fact, you know what? I wonder if a crow's foot would even get it. Maybe not. I might be back to turning it just a couple degrees at a time. But anyway, everybody's always the ones that give me the suggestions that never done it before themselves. Lock this down. Okay, a little bit more. We're tight. This one, a little more, and we're tight. Don't want these to vibrate off of here again. These 11mm nuts, man. This is the best way to do this. Alright, pretty sure I got that. Double check. Make sure. Put this up this way. Underneath. Now I can't even get the wrench on the nut. That's interesting. I wonder if this carburetor is a slightly different shape than the other one is. It might be. Yeah. There might be just a slight difference in the casting here. Try this guy. Alright. It's like none of this is gonna work. That's not even the right size now. I look at it, it's a 10. Why did I bring that out? Because you're stupid, Duckman. I mean, I make mistakes too. This one needs one of them. Little short wrench, like I said. Not that long trick. Anyway, I think I got it, but give it just a little more. There it is. Solid. All right. Air cleaner time. All right. Get out of there. Get our air cleaner bottom. These are different from some of the other ones. In fact, I just compared it to some of the ones I have in the garage, also from the same company. And I've noticed that the design of these is not always the same. Sometimes they have 3 bolts to attach them to the air cleaner. Sometimes they have a pinch nut over here that goes in that way. You know what? I better not do this yet. Because I didn't get that fuel line on there. If you don't put the fuel line on now, I may not be able to. Don't forget that. What's funny is I was thinking it too. Before I even hit the button on the camera to stop the camera, and I should have done it before I even changed positions before. Go. Snug that up. There it is. Now, I believe the sun is probably shining in the lens right now, so you might be getting some, I guess it's not too bad. All in chips on the lens really hasn't done it any favors. It really looks ugly. Alright, this is where our hex bar is going to go on, too. Before I tighten that down, that way we still have play in it. Not much, but there's still some. And these bolts in all the way on both sides. I should be able to sweep the hex bar in there. This needs to go in. Go behind this fuel line. I know I need to put the springs and stuff in there yet, and I have not. I'm just eyeballing everything to make sure this all fits. Now what we're going to do here is in resting position, you generally want these arms here parallel with the ground. You want 90 degrees. And then this arm is usually going to be 1/6 of a turn off of that to catch the throttle cable. And I think this is the right position here. No, nothing's tight yet. Why is this falling apart? Oh, bastard, get in there. Just to rest out here just for a minute. Make sure we got everything where it belongs here. Here we go. Yeah, I think that's right. So I pull that throttle cable up. It looks like it's going to be where it belongs. Okay, good. All right, I guess we can get in there. We can tighten up this bolt now. I had all that extra play in this thing, and I don't think that was necessary. Duck man, don't use an impact. You're going to strip that bolt. It is. I pulled the paper towel out. I did. Go in that way. I'll put a lid on there just to keep shit from falling in. That's about what our apparatus is going to look like. It looks pretty good too. Alright. These arms, you know what I just realized? Oh, Duckman, you didn't hook that vacuum line up. Well, I was talking to Wild Bill earlier. I actually noticed it then. But that bung for it, it's way back there. I wonder if I'm going to be able to get to it or if I have to take the air cleaner off here. The air cleaner's got to come off. Alright, well, let's hook that up quickly before we get any deeper into this here. Alright, turned out I was using a 2.5mm Allen key and I needed a 3. As obnoxious as that may be. I thought this was out already. That's just the way it goes. Alright, now let's get to that vacuum line up there. Little vacuum port, you remember we put the rubber on it yesterday. Why can't I feel it? There it is. Little rubber boot that's on there. This vacuum line's gonna go on there instead. And you guys, no, you can't see it. There's no better way to give you a camera angle on that one. Unless I put my butt holoscope in there, which actually might work. Maybe I should do that someday. Put my little butt holoscope up in the place that you guys want to see something. Alright, there it is. That's in. Now we can put this back together. So after everything's said and done, I still managed to take this side apart for you guys. Alright, that can come out. This now goes on. Here it is. Man, that's it. The sound of it hitting the body. How about this side? Does it do it? Yeah, it hits the body too. Talk about a tight fit, man. There was a lot of engineering that went into getting him like that. Oh. And to think of all the tolerances. Everything has to be, you know, and it's everything from down to the engine mounts, to the shape of the frame horns, to the padding in the body, where you put the body bolts in. All that has to be, you know, anything could compromise this setup. It's just funny to me, as soon as I talked about dropping these things in the engine compartment, I did exactly that myself. Okay, we got to put these little springs in. These are the ones, again, that I always found in the engine compartment. Some folks have told me that you can hold them in the ends here with a little bit of grease. I think that's kind of nonsense. I think what you need to do, and what I have done in the past, is to unwind the spring just a little bit. So that way when you put it in there, it grips. See? That ain't coming out anywhere. It's better than grease. Grease is kind of silly. So just pull the spring out and just stretch it just a little bit, so that way it's slightly contorted. And when you shove it in there, that one needs to be bent a little more. When you shove it in there, it'll bind up in its position. There it is. Now it ain't coming out, and it still serves as a spring. Makes a lot more sense to me. Alright, here we go. Look at that. Unwind these little joints here on the ends. There's no real formula for this, just keep turning them until the bar ends up centered with enough play in it. There'll be a little bit of back to forth motion, but not really much. Yeah, I need to go a little more. Having trouble turning these bolts here. Where's my 10 millimeter? I think they're 10. That's not a 10, that's not a 10. That's 10. Is it a 10? I don't think it's a 10, but these actually have to be wound out a lot more than I usually do a set on here. Alright, there it is, just a little bit of back and forth play. So you don't want it to bind. Hey, it's moving freely otherwise, so we're good on that. So the first thing we're going to want to do here is we're going to want to grab that 3mm Allen key that I had around here. Is lift this up, line this up with our throttle cable. We're going to lock this one down first. There we go. Okay, and then our arms need to go in here. These, I usually put them on the outside of the arm in a Type 1 anyway. In a Type 3 application, you can put it on the inside if you can, if you've got enough room. The reason why I flip-flop them is because the engine compartment on here is much tighter than the Type 3. Type 3 is tight vertically, Beetle is tight this way. Put this one in here also. And I haven't tightened those arms down yet because you need that extra free play. These arms look like they may be too tight. Guess we're about to see. Alright. Now these are adjustable back and forth this way. That is correct. You want to get these things as straight up and down as you can. The more vertical you can get it, the better it's going to actuate the carburetor. It's all about that 90-degree stuff, so that's about where we're going to have them. Now, this will adjust your low speed, whereas this is going to adjust your mid-range throttle position, that is. So if you're having trouble balancing them, this is where the stuff comes into play. So I think we're in a good spot here. Let's make sure that our throttle cable reaches. It does. I can put the hold fast on that now, and now I can start tightening these bolts down. It looks like I got the geometry right on the first try. Duckman, you look like you've done these before. Well, guess what? Duckman has done these before. Okay, alright. Snugged up. There we go. Those are nylon lock nuts, so they're good and tight. This is nice that they have that standoffs on the deck lid, because with a naturally closing deck lid, you would not be able to get this thing as 90 degrees as it is currently. And actually, it has to come over a little bit anyway because it's not clearing the body. That'll probably get it right about there. I'm going to lock that down. That actually looks really good. We'll probably find ourselves adjusting it again, but that's a good starting point, I think. This one, looking for about that same angle roughly. We're not tightening these down super tight either because we're going to find ourselves loosening them up again later. And then these little nuts here, I forgot to back them off. Alright, I'm going to show you something now. This is kind of interesting. Let me show you. Those offset manifolds make a whole lot more sense now because this cylinder is further back, this set of cylinders are further forward. So that manifold pushes it forwards a little bit. That manifold, being an exact mirror image of it, pushes it back a little bit. That means the linkage is now perfectly centered. And it also means the carburetors are perfectly centered. So everything is aligned straight. And that makes it a whole lot easier to tune these things. You don't need like a longer arm on one end or anything. So this works out nice. And their spring-loaded mechanism on here is also very nice. It's returning properly. That's always been an issue on these. I always find myself adding like a third spring somewhere to the middle here to return it back to idle, but you know, this doesn't need it. Our mixture screws are currently set to 4.5. You remember we did that earlier, so we should be good. We're going to connect our throttle cable right to here, just like that. And I'm going to remove this from here. Come on, let go. There we go. We'll make a couple of adjustments on this, but otherwise it's ready to start up in just a minute. So let's see what happens. Alright, there's our hold fast, a not broken one. How about that? This has to slide through these holes, and then the cable should slide into the hole on the end as long as I didn't butcher it too badly with the Sawzall. And now it looks like I didn't. It's good. I'm gonna bend this cable a little bit. It's a little kinked in the old setup. If you have a kink in there, it could cause your throttle to do some weird things here. They tell you you're supposed to tune these things with the throttle cable off. I usually leave it on, and there's a reason for that. Because while it's on, it actually does affect how things work, and that's important because this will be pulling on everything just a little bit. It will have its own spring tension on it. So I try not to over tighten it. The best way to actually set your throttle cable is to hold your throttle wide open, have somebody step on the gas so it's wide open, and then pull your cable back as far as it goes and lock it down. The reason for that is because when you step on that throttle, if you pull these carburetors to the max and that cable gets taut, what happens is the cable will eventually start to wear because every time you pull it, it stretches the cable and eventually it breaks. So ask me how I know. We're going to stick it on there temporarily. I think it's going to be kind of important, and I'm going to need it so I can get it started because I'm probably going to be romping on the gas a little bit. Once we get to tuning this thing, if we have to let it go, we will. But in most cases, when I do these things, I leave it on. Okay, just snug this up. There it is. Got some leftover washers and things in here from the old setup. We'll stick down below in our parts can because no hardware gets wasted around here. You know, all this old stuff all goes in a bin and will get reused again someday. Waste not. Washers cost more than a penny now. It's actually cheaper to drill a hole in a penny. Okay. I think we're good. You know what's next? Next thing is to start cranking it. See if we can get some fuel in the system. Let me go find the key. Alright, here it goes. Make sure those are on there where they belong. I put a little bit of gas down the carburetor just because. Let's see if that helps. It might. Always manage to get a tickle. Even if I'm not grounded, I'll still get a tickle. All right. Loosen them idle screws. I'll show you where they're at. All right, location of the idle screw is that one right there. That's our mixture screw. That's our idle screw. Now, watch this. Where's the idle screw? It's back there. Right back there. Getting a screwdriver on that one is practically impossible. I have this little tiny shorty screwdriver that I can actually use to turn that, so I'll back that off a little bit. But we'll get the idle set on this approximately. Then we'll put our snail on there. We'll start balancing it at idle. If we get that balanced well, then we'll hold it in a small throttle position and balance it again. That's where these arms and stuff come into play. And if we get that stuff all good to go, all right, there it is, running pretty good. I've been using this as an adjuster, although I noticed that I can Duckman grip the idle. And I can actually adjust it without even needing a tool, which is really nice, because it's really hard to get in there with a screwdriver. Although this little guy really does the trick on here. Now, the mixture screws were set to 4.5 turns. I've tightened them up to 2.5. And I played with the idle, and it seems to be pretty good right where it's at. 4.5 was making a little smoke. No more smoke. Throttle response is really, really good. Now it's just a matter of balancing them. I did take the throttle cable out of there because I had to adjust it. It was way too tight, stopping the throttles from returning back to the idle position because I had to loosen the screws a bit. So this thing runs really good. Really good. I'm really happy with this. Okay. They feel so well balanced at this point. I don't even know if I have to do much for balancing, but I guess we'll see when we put the snail on there. That's the next step. Fun times.
The following day.
Alright, well, I didn't get to show the tuning of the carburetors, and the reason why is because the tree guys came and picked everything up and just made a tremendous amount of noise while I was trying to finish things up, so that just didn't happen. So I did the best that I could without recording. I'm going to have to do a carburetor balancing video another day, but this car runs like a top, and I can't wait to take it for a test drive. So we're going to pull it off the ranch now, and we're going to see what it performs like. Also, while I was here, by the way, I was working on that roof rack. I put these little rubber bushes in here because there was none, and it was just eating up the paint. It was also the huge gaps. The feet were like way up here somewhere, so I did a little bending and conforming and twisting and shaping, and now the thing sits on there properly, and geez, you could shake the whole car by it, which before you couldn't. If you did that, it would have scratched the roof of the car because it was liquid, way too fluid. Anyway, there it is. There's the dashboard. People keep asking. I've never seen the dashboard. It was covered in previous videos. We'll cover it some more, but we'll be taking this thing for a test drive in just a minute. I got to change out batteries on this camera. There's a good look at that dashboard, which everybody keeps asking about, so there it is. We've never seen it before in video. We did last summer. Clutch in here feels a little different than Ruby does. Wow, this car's got guts. Oh yeah, those carburetors are balanced good. Wow, this thing runs good. Feel the distributor doing what it's supposed to do. We put that in last summer, if you remember correctly. I fixed the shifter in here too, which I did off camera. Turned out and this is funny because I had everything apart. I was looking at bushings, I was looking at the coupler, I was looking at the bottom of the shifter to make sure nothing was worn or unusually out of shape or proportion. And the problem actually turned out to be, bus coming, like he's turning, a washer under the shift knob. I never would have guessed. But yeah, the washer was under the shift knob, which caused the trigger on the shifter to not go up all the way when you lift up on it, which made it hard to put in reverse. You had to bang the shifter all around and then it would go in reverse. The owner said once in a while it would fail out. For me, it would fail every single time except for when I would bang it around, then it would go in. But yeah, I'm happy with the way this is running. I'm gonna take it for a long distance drive tonight across town just to make sure everything is still good, and then it's still good when it warms up. But I think we nailed it. CB Performance linkages, man, these CB Performance carburetors, air cleaners, the whole setup is just, it's the best. Really, it's the best. And if you have an old set of Delordos, which is really my favorite, look at that. Low RPM grunt. Very nice. This car's really got some go. I'm very, very happy with the setup on here. Oh man. I didn't even have to downshift it. The car is just, it's aggressive. And yeah, that's all pollen on the windshield. All the trees started dropping their dusty jizz all over everything. Anyway, making a mess. The suspension on here is very stiff. I never looked at it, but it's probably got some coilovers or something on it, or coilover shocks. It is lowered just a tad, but beyond that, I don't know what's under there. I haven't looked at it or messed with it. Right now, we're lugging in third gear, which is something you shouldn't do on an air-cooled Volkswagen, because that makes them very, very hot. You should actually downshift them and get the revs up a little bit, because you spin that engine up, which means you spin the fan. If you don't spin the engine up, the fan doesn't spin, therefore it runs under load, it starts getting very hot. Alright, well, we're doing quite well here. I'm going to call it off. Thanks for watching, guys. Licky, likey, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to plug that dingle belly so you get updates every time I upload a video. Check out duckshit.net for all of my different social media links. And we'll see you guys next time.